Hi, I'm Tony Fair, founder of Victorian Grooming Company. Is your beard feeling dry or the skin underneath itchy? Maybe you'd rather soften and tame your beard instead. Our classic collection of beard oils, balms, and soaps will leave your beard looking, feeling, and smelling amazing. And if you prefer shaving, our pre-shave oils and shave soaps will give you a smooth and razor burn-free shave. Handmade in Edmonton with natural ingredients. Visit victoriangrooming.com.
Hi guys, Craig here. Welcome to another edition of the podcast, Tell Craig Your Story. Today we'll be speaking to Jack Donovan. Now, Jack is from Michigan, USA. He is a singer-songwriter, recording artist, producer. Now, Jack plays in the popular band Trash Panda, and his previous band was Carbon, which was also a very popular band in Shanghai. Jack was a part of Someone the Musical. Now, in April, Jack recorded our very first EP. He mixed and mastered it. He's also been the director and principal of an international school. So here we talk about some of his health problems that he's had in China, some health issues with his family as well. Now, Jack is also the music promoter for the Seas Bar in Shanghai, and he books the bands and gives a lot of new bands the opportunity to start their music career. But before we go, please go to our website. We're at Podbean. Tell Craig Your Story at podbean.com. We also have a link tree there which tells you where Tell Craig Your Story podcast is streaming. We are on all the major streaming services, including Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple iTunes, to name a few. We also have WeChat for our Chinese listeners and VK for our Russian listeners, at Tell Craig Your Story. We have a YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribing to get all the latest updates there. All right, this is part one of my chat with Jack Donovan on Tell Craig Your Story podcast. Hey Jack, how you doing tonight?
Oh, fucking greatest night of my life, man. Greatest night of my life, thanks.
You got to the peak of your career now. Yeah.
It's the greatest night so far, right?
Few beers, got a,
Hell yeah.
There we go.
Cheers.
Same Asahi beers. Cheers to you. Jack, what's happening with you at the moment? Remember you were doing a recording or listening to it and you had a whiteboard in your apartment, and it was scheduled 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Yeah, you're doing something different.
I got a few projects going on. One of the big ones, new band Trash Panda.
Come on.
We got a few shows in under our belts so far. Yeah, we got some good stuff coming up. We're just finishing up the mixing and mastering for a song called Monterey. You may have heard it. Its next show is going to be August 13th. So if you haven't heard it, come to Lofus on August 13th. We'll be there. But we recorded this one song because we got a guy, Alejandro, who is a videographer, and he has been gracious enough to offer us a spot. And so we're gonna do some a shoot probably at C's Bar sometime in August. Hopefully by the fall we've got the video all shot and ready to go, so that'll be fun. Looking forward to that. And just trying to get a few more shows going before the summer's up. I feel like the summer's slipping away. So much to do, right?
I think you've got a shoe-in for another podcast and after that video. Is that correct?
Right.
I heard rumors.
Yeah. We gotta get the whole group in here. They're all interesting fellas. I'll tell you that.
Colin's jogging on the spot.
Right.
No, that's good to hear. And Trash Panda, and you're booking the Seas Bar.
Yeah. Oh, I've really been into that. I like that Seas Bar stuff. That's it's it's a great venue. Everybody knows some of the technical issues we all face there, but everybody always has a hell of a time, So we got one. Hell, we got them coming up this week, next week, pretty much. I feel like every week lately we've at least got something live coming up. So yeah, a lot of good bands coming through there. I was just the other day I was trying to figure it out. It's been just over 60 bands that we've had live now at Seas. So that's I was telling Jessie, the owner, and she was pretty excited about that. So yeah, me too. I think that's amazing. I started thinking back on some of those shows that I saw, and I was like, wow, there were some shit bands. No, I'm just kidding. No, actually, I've been happy with all the bands. I mean, my sound technician abilities is probably the weak link in the whole thing. So I can't complain at all. Fucking great bands coming through there.
Well, you're in that small little room. It's hard to describe. You're in a room, and then you go to the bar. That's another room, and then the pool table's another room, and it just sort of comes all together. You can only do so much with the vocals. But then if you've got a drummer that's going to smash them,
oh yeah,
it's difficult to sort of get a level there.
Right, but who doesn't love a drummer that just smashes the shit out of everything? Yeah. I mean, I love it.
Freaking hell.
Right, yeah, you got the war wounds,
wow.
Yeah. Yeah, man, some great bands coming through there. I mean, got to shout out at least a few of them. I mean, we got, Deku, Round Eye came through, Chimera Cult, Flip House. Guys like, solo stuff like Radio and Zach Heffler, just a lot of amazing music coming through there.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
Absolutely. And you're producing, you're,
Yeah. I just there's this band called Full Throttle. You guys may have heard of them. There's this band Full Throttle, a duo. They play some badass rock music. I did an EP for them. They had a release party just recently, just a couple weeks ago. Sounds like it went real well. I had another show at Seas, so I wasn't able to be there. But I saw you singing there the other night. Oh
yeah.
Oh yeah, I know every song. I've heard those songs more than anybody I think in the world.
There was a little bit of mixing and mastering. No click tracks in terms of trying to mix it would have been I could see the hours and hours.
Oh yeah, it was a labor of love. It was a blast.
But it turned out really good, and we got some good
very
feedback
happy
on the sound of it as well, just very raw and live, and
that's exactly what it is. That's what I feel like Full Throttle is.
That's what we wanted.
Exactly. That was you asked me. I said, well, what do you want me to make it, clean and sharp, or and you said loud. I can do that.
That was it. And had all these other guys that we're talking to, and it's like, oh, you can use electronic drums, and you can just cut and paste, and it's like, what
just go in there, smash. That's all. That's all you got to do.
Just record one riff, and just say, okay, see you later. Yep. You go with that.
Yeah. So that was a blast, though. Yeah, we did. So I did that one. Right now, I'm in the middle of doing a song for my friend Jen Someone. I worked with her. I met her through the musical that Ivan, I heard, was just here earlier today.
Yeah.
So Someone the Musical, I worked on that, and I met Jen through there, and so I'm working on recording a single for her.
Right.
So we got most of the tracks laid down, just mixing and mastering, and we'll have that. I'm not sure what she's planning to do with it yet, but I'm sure it'll be something great.
Yeah. Wow. Can you fit some sleep in there? Or
man, sleep's for later when I'm dead. Man.
The Bon Jovi sleep when I'm dead, yeah. Awesome. A starting question about the pandemic. You were here in Shanghai, and for people, especially in Australia, it's for them, they only see the bad things on the news and in the media, so they don't really get the true stories of like people that actually lived in this time.
Right.
So tell us, how was it for you, like with your work and being shut down, and how did you adapt to it, and were your family safe as well?
Yeah. Timing wise, it was kind of strange for me because I had quit my job about a week before COVID happened. So I had just quit my job. I was the director of a school, and so I quit my job, and I was ready to head out, and I was going to head back home, see the family, do the normal stuff, and then head back, probably somewhere Southern Europe or something. And COVID happened, and so obviously things got froze. I wasn't really sure what to do, but I just knew I didn't want to be out traveling. Because I think one thing, especially like you say, people in Australia and these other parts of the world, everybody's got their own stories about COVID. But one thing that I think is unique about the Chinese experience here is that nobody knew what was going on when we got here. And when it started, there was no kind of, we kind of have an idea of what this is. I remember I first heard about it a lot, probably weeks before it was like a major thing, and people were talking about, there's like it's pneumonia, and people were saying, it's some kind of pneumonia, but nobody really knew what it was, because obviously it takes a while to figure out what's going on. And so, we didn't really know what was going on, and then when we figured out, I think in Shanghai, the lockdown was very sudden. It was like I woke up one morning and I was like, everything's closed. And there were guys, there were these security guards. They, like my apartment complex we had 3 or 4 entrances. We're down to 1 still. Because immediately when it happened, they shut down all the entrances and exits in and out of the complex. And they said, nope, this is the only way in and out. We're gonna check your temperature, make sure that you're wearing a mask all the time when you're anywhere that you go inside. So it was real sudden, and I know they hired a bunch of extra people just to walk my neighborhood, because some of the businesses, like some of the smaller bakeries and stuff, they were trying to reopen. And when they were trying to reopen, these neighborhood guys would come down and they say, nope, you got to shut it down. Like, we're serious. Like, this is you got to stop. Everybody just, it was very tight lockdown. I remember, I'd go out for walks like late at night when it was empty, and I'd walk around the street and I'd be wearing my mask when I was like, in the middle of the road by myself and all this, because nobody knew. Like, nobody knew what to do. Like, we just knew that there was something, and we were like, it's in the air somewhere.
Wear a mask.
Exactly. And so that's all we knew. We didn't know anything about, now they're starting to get where it's like, okay, we know, like, in certain situations, like, you don't need to wear a mask, if you're vaccinated, you got a mask, like, or you're, outdoors or something. Okay, we understand these things, like, and we're refining it always, it's a thing that doesn't happen often. People don't live through this twice usually, so this is kind of new for everybody. Here it was quick. I can't complain at all, really, honestly. When I look at, the rest of the world, it's rough, because I kept a diary of it, and it was about, maybe it was like a couple months that I was like locked into my apartment, more or less, and not locked in. I could go out and shop and get the necessities, but for, maybe a month or 2, I was just stuck, but hell, my family back home, some of them, they've been locked in for like 13, 14, 15 months, something like that. And I can't even imagine, honestly, what it's like. I feel anybody that's dealing with that every day. Like, I talk to my mom all the time. Like, my family's managed to. They got all the way through. I think everybody's all the way through where they're all fully vaccinated now, and nobody got sick. So like they locked down. They didn't play these games. They decided, all right, we don't know what it is either, and I kind of instilled some fear in them a little bit, to be honest, when it first happened, because they were like, what do you do? What is it? I was like, just stay home. I was like, I don't know.
Wash your clothes.
Exactly. Because I remember, like, I'd go out and I'd be wearing gloves and everything, and then when I'd come in, I'd be scrubbing everything down with the sanitizer and all this. Like, I'd rather be safe than sorry, to be honest, with that kind of stuff. It's like, there was something when things opened back up. I think, like, there was this just everyone had this desire, like that was like, so the band I was in, Carbon, we just played our last show, not long ago.
That was great.
So yeah, unfortunately some of the guys just too busy, like, life gets in the way sometimes. But we had our last show. We played our first show just after COVID, after we reopened. Like, I think it was probably about the first live show after COVID reopened. It was a Loafus show, and we played with Round Eye. We had that show, and that was our first show, and we had been practicing in the C's basement, for a while. And oh man, once we came out, we just wanted to play every weekend. We just wanted to go to every show we could, and that was the first time for me. That was the first time I really started to get involved in the Shanghai music scene much. Like I didn't really know anybody in bands or anything. I'd always we'd always been isolated in C's because that wasn't a live music place really. It never was until about a year and a half ago or something.
Yeah.
And and so when that kind of became a part of my life, I was like, oh, it feels so good to do that again, because like for most of my adult life, like that's I've always played music. Even when for years I wasn't in bands or anything, but and I was always playing. I play guitar every day, and every day since I've been here in Shanghai, probably. Like I was before that. I lived in Spain. I busked, throughout Europe. I was just a busker, just street performer. Like I just went around doing that for years. Like it was just part of my life to make music and like meet other people that are making music. So it's great. Yeah. Once it started happening, and then all of a sudden you meet all these people that are very like-minded. When it comes to music as being like this special thing. Yeah. Because I think not that only musicians have that, but I think there is something that people that are in bands and musicians and things, they kind of. It's such a part of their soul, that I think it's pretty special to meet. When you meet people that feel that same way, you're like, okay, I'm not crazy.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like I know I get super excited about this, but all right, I'm not the only one.
Definitely.
For sure.
No live music to watch, no live music to play. So yeah, I definitely feel you. Did you do any writing in that sort of time off, or it was full lockdown? Like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. During lockdown, I mean, I did I do diary entries regularly. I would say I was writing more like poems and stories though, not songs as much. So I always kind of think music and writing in general, and just like that's my creative outlet. Like I can't draw for shit. Like, I can't paint. I can't do anything. When it comes to like looking at things, visual art. As I'm lost, like I love looking at it and I interpret it in my own way. Yeah. But man, I'm terrible at creating it. So for me, it's always been about words and just oral things. Listening to stuff and then just writing stories, writing poems, writing song lyrics, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I never really finished a lot of it, to be honest. I think a lot of it was just an outlet, so I didn't have to really think about stuff. Right. I think that's a lot of what writing is. I think it's just writing in general is about like, okay, just get it out and kind of put your mind in a space where it's free and you're not worrying about the world. Like obviously the world seeps in, and when you're writing, that's just, you don't have to try to write the world comes at you hard. So like you just kind of keep writing and keep trying to do what you're doing, and then you live life, and somehow life shows up in the art. Right. Like it's just how it is. It's a beautiful thing.
Well, I guess not wanting to write about COVID as well, like
right.
as well. So I guess that's another thing. Like, are you going to do something with that in the future? Like a story.
What I did then?
Write stories or poems or.
Oh, with like writing stories. Yeah. I still do that a lot. Like I write. Lately, I've been writing music a lot more.
Trash Panda.
Right, Trash Panda. We've been writing a lot of stuff. I'm trying to get a solo set together. So I'm trying to refine the songs I have and figure out which ones I want to use. I guess, like I say, I write a lot, and so I have way too many songs. the other day I was I lost my phone because I'm an idiot, and like I had like over 1,000 songs like partially done, you know, and I ended up finding like 500 of them, you know, but it's still I lost like 600, and they were the 600 most recent ones. So I was like, shit. I was like, that was a lot of work there that I know am missing now. So I've been trying to recreate some of them. But most of them, it's like, you know, I just recorded them on my phone and never thought about them again because I was like, maybe if I'll use them in the future for something. Yeah, right. You know, and because you never assume your phone's going to actually get lost. That's what happens to other people. Like, that doesn't
back it up.
Right, exactly. That never happened to me. Yeah. Like, how could that happen? But it turns out,
it does happen. But let's go back to where you come from originally. So I do believe you are from Detroit, Michigan.
I'm from Michigan, but I'm from the other side from Detroit. About maybe probably about 3.5 hours, something like that. Yeah. So yeah, Detroit's over there on the east side. So everybody in Michigan knows that the state looks like a mitten. It's the shape of the mitten. So for the sake of everyone here in the podcast, I'm just going to point to this, Craig. I'm from right here, okay? That mitten shape right here on my hand, that's right there, Grand Rapids, right on the lower western part of Michigan. So yeah, I'm from Grand Rapids, Michigan originally.
Does it freeze up in the winter time?
Oh yeah. That was a big part of the reason I left. I hate cold weather. I hate like the extreme cold. Oh, yeah. Shanghai's fine, it doesn't get that cold, but no, we lived on a gravel pit and it froze up every year. We could go ice skating and ice fishing and all this on top of it. So it was too cold. It was too cold for its own good. Well, so I don't live in the city proper. I live it's about maybe a 5-minute bicycle ride through the trails it's a small area called Walker. No. It's actually Walker, but I think of it as Grand Rapids because it's right there, and Grand Rapids is definitely much bigger than Walker. Right. I actually went to school in Grandville, which is another kind of suburb of that area. But yeah, Grand Rapids is really, I think of that as home. I think like when I go back home, I spend as much time as I can, obviously with my family, and then I try to balance that with just being anywhere, the downtown area, the East Town area, like it's a great place, especially if you're into bicycles. Oh man, if you love riding bicycles, that's a spot, and it's not easy bicycling. For people that have never been to Shanghai, this is an easy ride on a bicycle. It's flat. It's great. You're just kind of going everywhere. But back home I do a lot of bicycling. I started playing music. I was trying to think about the other day because I knew I was coming on this podcast. And I was trying to think, when did I start playing music? And it was probably I think I was 9 or 10. I had an old classical guitar, and my dad taught me a couple chords, and I was like, no, I don't want to play like that, and so I just as a punishment to him, I stopped playing guitar, and and then 3 or 4 years later, I picked it back up, and I was like, actually, I really wanted to play. I thought I was being a badass by not playing guitar, but then I picked it up again, and then that's when I actually started to play music. But right about that same time, I was probably 14 when I started playing music seriously, and I immediately started writing my own songs and got in a band. We had the Battle of the Bands. First band was called the Outbreeds, and we were just awful, as everybody's first band when you're 14 playing for the Battle of the Bands is. We got disqualified twice, awful. Start early. It wasn't great, but then we played. There's a band. The next band I got was Drive. So this terrible tattoo that I got right here. That says Drive. Believe it or not, I know it just looks like a lumpy mess, but I got that. That was my first tattoo. It was a free one because they couldn't afford to pay us, but they were like, well, we'll give you a tattoo with these dirty needles we got here. And I was like, cool. I'm 14. Done. I don't know what I'm doing. So I got together with some guys, over there in Granville, and we played some music, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, played around. There's another band. So the guy that was the drummer then, but then became the bassist and singer of a really, really great band worth checking out called North Lincoln. They're not around anymore, but man, they had some awesome records.
Right.
Yeah, check those guys out, North Lincoln. But
so, what music were you listening to at that stage, and were your family sort of in the entertainment industry? Like, were they like playing music as well, or?
I kind of have two sides, I guess. I would see it as two sides of me when it comes to music. Like, I very much am into bands like The Queers, Screeching Weasel, anything that was like the early or like mid '90s, like East Bay punk. You know, it was like
1, 2, 3, 4.
right, a lot of 1, 2, 3, 4s, a lot of like Lookout. Their big band was Green Day. The first two albums that Green Day released were on Lookout. And they had a ton of just great pop punk stuff, and I was always really into that. But then on the other side of it was all the stuff I got from my dad, because my dad, he taught me how to play guitar. Like he's played guitar his whole life, you know, pretty much. And so yeah, that's every time I had a question like how do you play this or how do you do that, I learned his way. And he's really into folk music. Like he was very much more like kind of folk, you know, rock folk type stuff. And so, like, there's always that side of me is, like, kind of how I see it. It's because it's very different. There's similarities, but it's very different in tone and style. You know, it's much more mellow. Like, well, like my middle name is Donovan, named after the Scottish folk singer Donovan. And so I always thought, you know, I always had to listen to Donovan because I was like, well, I'm named after him. I have to be familiar, you know. So I always listened to a lot of that kind of stuff. Like my mom always, like she has a decent ear and she can sing, but it was funny because she always knew how to play one song on guitar, and it would change sometimes, but as soon as she learned that next song, she'd forget the old one, and so she had to keep switching songs. And the one that she stuck with mostly was "Love Is a Rose" by Neil Young.
Right.
So that was like that. It was always like, oh, you can know one song, like that's all you can know at a time, you know, for some reason. So, but yeah, we grew up like. You know, in my house, there was like a room. We had an electronic organ. We had a piano. We had, you know, 12-string guitar, 3 or 4 acoustic guitars, electric guitar, bass. Yeah, just about everything. The drums came later. But my family, they were always really supportive. They didn't understand punk rock. They because I play in the basement and I'd just be down there making noise half the time as they saw it. But they were always supportive of me. You know, if it got to be too late, they'd tell me to turn it down a bit. But my dad built a workshop behind our garage one time. And I was like, oh man, you know, it'd be great in there. Some drums, some bass, guitar stuff, some guitar stuff. And so eventually I started to piece by piece fill it in. And then we had band practice. And I was like, hey, why don't we just, your workshop, can we practice in there? And eventually he was like, yeah, fine. He's like, it's just a practice space. I get it. You know? So he kept his tools around the outsides. And then we filled it with all the musical instruments. And we got to practice in there. So yeah, both my parents were always pretty supportive. In a way of like they didn't necessarily understand. They still don't. Posted a couple videos the other day, and my mom saw them, and she's like, Jack, I don't know about you. She's like, you got to warn me before you these videos. She's like, you're not wearing any clothes, you know. I'm like, well, yeah, but you know, like look at what I'm really doing, you know. And she's like, I know.
Just listen to the music,
right? So like, yeah, I think she sees the humor in it all. I think I think having a good sense of humor is an important thing to have in life, you know.
Alice Cooper and Kiss and all that, and Manson and ripping up the
right.
Why can't you do that?
Right, I can. Why not? That's the question. Why can't I do that stuff?
That's right.
Anybody
and were you doing that even at the early stages?
Oh yeah, I guess that's always been one of my shticks. Like I remember, outside a place called 10 Weston, you know, there was like 10 people there, but in the little building next door or something, there were like 20 or 30 people in there. So I had been drinking, you know, coffee mugs full of vodka outside on the sidewalk, just like being an idiot. And I came inside and nobody was at the show hardly. So I just, took it all off, you know, stripped it on down, and all of a sudden everybody from all the other buildings came running in. They're like, I heard there's this, whoa, look at this guy, you know? And I was like, oh, okay, I get it. This is how this works. You know, like, cheap tricks, you know. I'm not above cheap tricks, you know.
Did you have any recordings with these bands, you know?
Yeah, Drive we had, I don't remember to be honest, probably, I would say maybe up to like 35, 40 songs recorded total. There's a guy, my buddy's Kevin Nunn. I hadn't talked to him in a long time. I haven't talked to most people back home, to be honest. It's, you know, I don't really look on Facebook much. It's hard to keep in contact. When I get back there, though, I always talk to him. But yeah, he had kept a record of all the songs we ever recorded as Drive.
Right.
And so yeah, he's actually the guitarist and singer from that band North Lincoln I mentioned.
Right.
And so he's got it all somewhere, you know. And I listened to it, man, probably 10 years ago or something. I went back and listened. I was like, oh, that's fun. Like, I don't know if it's good, but it's fun.
Just brings back all these memories.
Exactly. That's always nostalgia. Like, because I think the only other thing that I got from Grand Rapids I recorded, I was in a band for at least a few months. That had to be while I was in between traveling. You know, because like I said, I kind of just traveled around for a few years, and like while I was back home for a few months saving up some money, I was in a band with a few of my buddies. One of the guy, Adam, like I always considered him my bass player because like it was very rare that I'd have a band or anyone I'd play with without being him as the bass player because he's great, you know. And we're like, you know, just really close. We're on the same wavelength for sure. But now he's got this band called Bong Mountain. Bong Mountain, also another awesome band. They're currently playing. You know, they're still doing live stuff. They've released a few things on Bandcamp, like just great stuff. But me, him, and then a couple other guys, we recorded under the name Hot Biscuit. And so we recorded an album, and then basically ran out of time. We recorded the album, and you know, I don't think we played a single show. You know, we just kind of like laid down the tracks and we were ready, and I was like, well, I got enough money to fuck off, so I'm out of here. You know, I took off. Such is life, you know. Sometimes you just got to get moving, you know.
I did the same thing, exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
With my band in Australia, we recorded almost an album. It was eight tracks, and then the next day, I was like, I've got to do my guitar bits because tomorrow I'm flying to Brazil. I'm going to Brazil for a month.
Right.
And it's like, all right, I've done my part. See you later.
Right.
And that was never released either. So it's just sitting there. Oh. So maybe one day it'll see the light of day.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be a fun one to go back. Yeah, go back and listen to. Yeah, like you said, a nostalgia factor.
Yeah.
That's always a good time.
Oh yeah, that one.
Right. Forgot all about that. Yeah, I listened a few years back. I think it was. I listened to those Hot Biscuit songs, and I was like, oh, okay, like some of it wasn't bad, but I honestly couldn't play a single part. I was like, I don't remember any of it. I was like, this is all just, you know, riffs that I played for like 3 months. I don't know, 7 years, 8 years, 9 years ago or something. Like, you know.
Was it easy for you to write songs even at that stage?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think writing good songs is hard, but like writing songs is the easiest thing in the world.
Whether they're good or bad,
right? That's like
irrelevant.
It's exactly, and I think that's the whole thing about, like, for me, I think the songwriting is, it's not about, you know, oh, I have this brilliant idea and this is going to be the song and this is the one I should spend all my time on. It's like, no, you should write it and you should finish it, and then you should go back and draft it a bit and edit it a bit. But while you're doing that, you should be working on at least 2 to 3 other things.
Yeah.
You know, if you only have one song, it's going to be stale. Mm-hmm. You know, you need your brain to be in a few different modes so that you can kind of play off this one and then you can move it over here. You can take a week off on this one, you know, and just knock them out. You know, just play songs, get songs, and then, because everybody's, in reality, like, if you write 20 songs, you might get 1 or 2 that are worth a shit. You know, like, most every song that any of us are ever going to write is garbage. Yeah. You know, like, and it's fine. That's beautiful. Like, to us, they mean something, you know, as individuals and as the person who created them, but it's like I said, I lost like 500-600 songs the other day, and it's like, well, it sucks, but it's like, to be fair, it's probably like 2 good ones.
Yeah.
It's not like this massive loss to the world. Like, I'm not, it's not like, oh man, we found this treasure trove of Van Goghs here. Like, it's like, no, you lost like, I had like 800 bad riffs and like 300 terrible lyrics. Like, oh man, the world is now incomplete because of my stupid iPhone.
Someone's gonna form a band and have all these new tunes. It's like, wait a second.
They're welcome to them, man. If they could make them good, I would be shocked.
Get a little bit of credit for it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, just throw me a little, writer's credit.
Can I have my phone back as well?
Right. Yeah, I got my pictures off it, actually. The only thing I actually cared about was the music that was on it. Yeah, everything else was backed up. So.
Right. So you said that in that period as well, you did some traveling. So you said you did some busking in Europe. Was that right?
Yeah. So I graduated. So I didn't go to college until quite late. It was about 24 when I graduated.
What do you call it back at home? Like a gap year? Like you finished high school?
I had like a gap 6 years. Like whatever. Like that's something like that.
Right.
You know? So I the way I see it, I basically worked every job that I never wanted to work again.
Right.
And then I was like, okay, but I've done it. I worked a lot of different things. I did, I worked in restaurants a long time. That was kind of my main thing, was always just, usually cooking,
chef
sometimes, sometimes waiter, bus, host, whatever. Just kitchen grunt. That's all I was, mostly. But then, I sold vacuum cleaners door to door. I sold potpourri pillows and duck umbrellas and all kinds of just weird, like whatever. Like whatever you could fit in a like duffel bag, basically. We would just fill up duffel bags, fill them from our cars, like go to the warehouse with 3,000 things, right? And I would just literally talk to every person, talk to like 250, 300 people a day, and you would just sit there and I'd just be like, hey, blah, 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 and like, you gotta, I think that is how you just get the door slammed in your face so many times. After a while, you stop caring about that, and you just, like for me, and I think a lot of the people that do it for a long time, they just have to try to get a smile out of the person. So it's not so much about selling things, because, that kind of sales is like, it's just works off the law of averages. It's like if you talk to 300 people a day, there's like 20 people that are going to buy stuff. And so like the other people, you don't have to be pissed. You don't have to like be an asshole to them. You don't have to do anything. You could just like have a joke and then have a laugh with them and be like, all right, thanks. Anyway, see ya. I don't have time to sit here and argue with you. And so like you kind of just move on. And I kind of liked it. It was long hours. It was hard. I ended up like helping to run one of the offices and open a new office in Indiana, Fort Wayne.
Right.
I don't know if you've ever been to Fort Wayne, Indiana. Don't. It's, and also because I was doing door-to-door sales, people aren't nice to door-to-door salespeople in general, So for me, it was like I go into this new city, I don't know anything in Fort Wayne, and it wasn't actually like I very, very rarely actually sold things in Fort Wayne because we did the whole 3-hour circuit all the way around all the cities, that were in Indiana there, and so it was just it was tough work. And after a while, I was just like, my heart's not in it, and so I just left. And then, I left, and after that,
What did you study, sorry?
Oh, so
I
studied history and philosophy.
Right.
Probably after I left with sales and things, that was I probably just, bumbled around from cook job to cook job and that kind of stuff and, doing whatever. And then, then I went to a little community college in Grand Rapids and got an associate's degree, which is a 2-year degree. I don't know if most countries have associate's degrees.
Yeah,
it's like
we have like diplomas, we call them.
Oh, okay.
Like a college sort of thing, and you go in there, you get 2 years, 3 years. Yeah.
Right, that's ours for 2 years. I mean, mine took 3 years, but I was doing part-time because I was also working full-time at the same time.
Right.
Because that's the other thing in America, it's like, you kind of got to work full-time just to be able to go to school full-time or, to pay and keep your bills and everything. And so, it was a lot of times I'd be working like 3 or 4 jobs plus going to school. It was pretty miserable.
And I didn't know, like, with the waiters and waitresses in the US, like, there's such low salaries and they rely so much on the tip.
Right.
So,
it's about $2.65 an hour.
And I was tipping them heavy because, like, I couldn't believe how low they was.
Yeah,
It's like...
Yeah, and I mean, that's, my opinion, which doesn't matter at all, but my opinion on that is that it's the employers trying to be cheap. Because they don't have to bring that out of their pocket, and in the end, the argument, I guess, would be that the waiters and waitresses still get a good pay. They actually get paid a lot more than the cooks often, because the tips add up pretty well. But still, I think the employers should pay a living reasonable wage instead of passing the buck and kind of pocketing that money and then expecting all of their patrons to be paying that money. I think it's a more fair way, and I think it's more gives you more guarantees, because if you have a bad night, that means you hardly get anything, and so it's a strange system. I liked waiting tables because I made more money, than I did cooking, but also cooking is more consistent. It was more, and I was just better at it, I think.
Well, I guess it's for good customer service, but I think that's one of the reasons why in Australia we don't have it at all. And it's just you pay the goods and services tax in the bill, so there's no sort of arguing over tips and you only gave me this much and just okay. That's your total bill, and kept forgetting how to tip. The first time I was there, I didn't tip the pizza guy, and he got pissed.
Right, because it's true. You have to know what kind of things do you tip, what kind of things do you not tip.
I'm so used to it. I just pizza's here, cool, see you, bye. Slam the door in his face, and he's like,
man, this guy. What I do? Piss in his cornflakes? What am I? I think one of my more interesting jobs that I didn't do for long, but it was trying to get signatures for Michigan state amendments from the Michigan Senate, and that was a weird one because I barely even knew what the amendment was about, but it was just my job to go try to collect signatures. And so it was just kind of, you had to you just gave them a piece of paper and they would read it, and then they would be yes or no, and there wasn't much you could say. It was just that you had to go out, wait a couple minutes for them to read it, and then move on.
Were you getting people signing Donald Duck and
Oh yeah. Most of them didn't. I think probably 5% actually were fully officially registered, because all the information had to be right. They had to give me they had to give me their grandma's maiden name and all this just all kinds of nonsense, and so it was. Yeah, I didn't make a lot of money. It was interesting to do for a little bit, but I was also working 3 other jobs at the time, and so I was I'm doing a laundromat, 2 kitchens, and this. I was one of these has to go, and the only one that's really not paying me anything is this one that's signing getting people to sign a clipboard, and they're not doing it. So.
Senate.
So I scratched that. Kept going on with education for a couple years. Then I graduated. When I graduated from Grand Rapids, then I decided to go to Texas. And so, because like I said, I just hate cold weather. It really bothers me, And so I decided I would go to Texas. That and many other reasons, but that was one of the main ones.
You just want to catch up with radio, right?
Right. I can't believe I didn't run into radio down in Corpus Christi. I was in San Antonio, so I was only a few hours away. Wow, I wasn't that far away.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I caught up with him now, though. He's a good dude.
Just a small world in China. Yeah, just meet up in Shanghai. Yeah.
Exactly. So I went to the University of Texas, San Antonio. So I did that. I'd never been to Texas when I got there. Had I known how much cooler Austin is, I would have just gone there. Yeah. But I went to San Antonio and didn't realize that Austin is actually way more the type of place that I would like to hang out in.
Right.
And so so I went over there. I went over to Austin a few times while I was there, but it took me about 3 years to finish getting my degree. And then the day that I graduated, I was on a plane to Dublin. yeah, like I left. My mom came down from Michigan to Texas to see me off. Prove that I wasn't lying to her, that I actually got a degree. I think that's actually what she was doing.
Are you sure?
I'm not sure, but I have my suspicions. She maybe didn't believe me completely that I graduated. I mean, because that's how it was with high school. It's like it was like I didn't get to go to. Also, she didn't get to go to her graduation because I ended up screwing that up, and I wasn't allowed to walk the graduation, and neither was my family and all that. So I think she just wanted to have a chance to do that, and so she did. And I graduated magna cum laude with honors. So I worked my ass off. I earned it, and then I was immediately like, no, I want to go see these things that I've been studying in history, for the past 6 years. It took me about 6 years to get the degree. And so I was like, all right, I want to go see some of these places. And so, I just kind of showed up in Dublin, stayed there for a little bit, and then just I took like a roundabout way all the way through the north part of Europe, got over to around the Czech Republic, and then kind of circled my way back down, and then landed in Spain at some point. And then that was, like, when I got to Spain, I really liked it, and I kind of decided, like, okay, maybe I'll spend more time here. So I just traveled around Spain for quite a while. I don't know exactly how long. And then I moved in with a girl in Barcelona. We lived there. We ended up getting married for a while. Then we came here to Shanghai, and then that didn't work out. So she headed back home, and then I stayed here, and so it was like Spain was always I still talk about, probably that's where I'll go back, because I always feel like that was kind of like my place, the place that I felt most comfortable in.
Jam.
Yeah, and it was, and because I studied Spanish as well, and and living in Texas, I had an opportunity to practice my Spanish a lot, so that was great, and so so I feel like it was nice. It was, I had, whether it was, like, the north is kind of special and it has its own thing, but then you go down south and it's very rustic and all, like, kind of mountains, and you're just, you feel, so it was something I was like, oh, okay, I was like, I like this area, and so I'll probably go back. Yeah, like, I'm looking to actually I'll probably be leaving here sometime in the fall.
What?
I'm thinking sometime in the fall.
What's happening to Trash Panda and the Seeds Bar?
I know,
You're leaving a big hole in
people fill holes. If there's a gap, it will be filled. Don't worry about missing me. I'll miss everybody. Right? Like, I'll miss it, obviously. This has been it's been a great time here.
Yeah.
It's been just this kind of unreal experience. All the people I've met, and I feel like one of my favorite things about Shanghai is that it's just kind of like anything is possible. Like, even any dumb idea that I have that I'm like, oh, I want to do like a thing. I want to like throw this big party and like rent this bar where we have this and live music comes in, and we all dress up with like neon stuff, and then we like over here we've got foosball, and over here we've got beer pong, all like in this underground maze bar, and it's like, oh, okay, cool, we just go over here and do that,
like a phone call,
exactly. It's like everything is everywhere, and you're just kind of like, oh, okay, there's always so much going on. It's so easy just to like to kind of have it go too fast. I think that's one thing is as I haven't wrapped my head around the fact that I'm looking at leaving soon, really. But as I do, I kind of I start to reflect a little bit on it, and I'm like, this is like, there's a lot of things I'll miss. There's a lot of things that, man, I'll never get that again. There's certain things I'll never get again. Not trying to get too sentimental, but yeah.
But even still, I'm sure you would have the same feelings when you were in Spain and when you were in Texas.
Right. Every time I leave, it's But I feel like the thing is like you just got to keep on going.
Yeah.
Sure. It's I hear a lot of people, back home, like a lot of my family, they think ice. It seems weird to them that I don't have this desire to go back home. Not just. I don't mean to belittle the idea. It's like, but they think it's very strange that I don't want to go back home. You know, I get the question a lot, like, well, why don't you? When are you going to come back home? And it's, you know, and to me, I'm like, well, home is great. You know, like, it's awesome, and I'll always come back there. Yeah. Of course. I like, you know, like, I love a lot of the people there, and like the place is amazing, and I love to see what's changed and what's going on. But I haven't seen, like, this other place in the world at all, ever. I was like, I have no idea what's going on there, you know? It's kind of how I ended up here, you know? Like, I didn't know anything about anything here, and I was like, well, you know what? You know how you could find out? Go there. You know, like, and I did like everybody else in Shanghai, where I was like, all right, I'll come to Shanghai for 1 year, and then I'm going to leave. And here I am, like 6 years and something later. You know, that's everybody though.
It's got to be a T-shirt,
exactly.
Or a bumper sticker.
Everybody, every single person. I feel like every person I know has that story.
Experience.
Right. You know, 1 year I'll
be a teacher.
Be the teacher in the training school. I'll do this. You know, like that's it.
Travel all over China.
Right.
And I'll come back all refreshed and ready to go. It was like.
No, it's just no. It's like I said, it's right. It's just so easy to live here. I think is a lot of it. And once you start meeting people, it's, you know, it's like, man, you know, it is like, like Shanghai is a village, you know, and I've heard it said before. I didn't invent this idea, but it is a village, you know, like you go and you have these same circles of people that, you know, like, oh, okay, everybody goes, you know. Going over to Spectres, you're going over to Inferno, you're going over to Seas, you're going, you know, all these, like, the hot spots, you know, and you see the same people at all of them, and then you might catch up somewhere else doing something else, but it's like, you know, everybody's in these few places, and it's great, you know, it's like, I love it, like, go to Spectres on a Friday night. That's awesome. That's like the greatest time ever. You just go there, you feel like you know everybody. You know, you just kind of, oh, look at all my friends. Like, this is great. They're playing all my favorite music. Like, you know, same with Inferno. You go there, it's like, oh yeah, it's the same thing. That's the thing. Spectres is the punk rock bar. Inferno is the metal bar. Right. And so, like, what do you feel like tonight? Do you feel like punk rock? Do you feel like metal? What do you want? You know, like it's going to be awesome either way. You know, for sure. Seas, you never know what you're going to get. That's the thing. Is like, I feel like Seas is always the wild card. Yeah. If you're like, ooh, we're not really sure what we feel like. Let's start out at Seas and see what happens there. Yeah. You know, that room, man. There is something very, very odd in that place that I love it.
It seems to be like a lot of history in there. Something, I don't know how long it's been open for, but
20 years.
Yeah, right.
Just over 20 years. Yeah, we celebrated the 20th anniversary a few months back.
Right.
And yeah. And you can see it all on the walls.
Oh, yeah.
You can see all 20 years of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I like it, though, because, every once in a while we'll do a party where they'll redo a wall. So, you know, just everybody gets paints and everybody does whatever they want, and they just repaint that wall with a bunch of crazy stuff on it. You know, and so, you see, like, these, oh, yeah, that was that party. Oh, this was that party. And also because that place is just it's a labyrinth. You know, it's probably, 10 rooms, something like that. And each room is just this kind of its own little alcove. Yes. You feel like it's a separate bar, you know. And but then you walk out and you're in the middle of it and everything's happening. You know?
Yeah, that's right.
It's such a strange place, but that's kind of my home bar. I work there most of the time. I mean, you know, I do every live show there. Like I'm happy to be there to do the sound.
Well, let's go forward. So tell us about the Seas Bar then, and how that all come together.
Right. So Seas Bar, when I first started going there, it was probably a bit over 2 years ago. I want to say 2.5 years ago, something like that.
And they didn't have live music there?
No. It was just DJs. It was just DJs that would come into a tiny room like the size of a king-size bed, more or less. You know, that was the room, you know, and that was it. And so they'd come in and they'd have DJs come in, but in the back room they had a practice space. And that back room had, you know, just the usual, the drums, guitar, bass, amps, that kind of stuff. And so that was where Carbon started practicing.
Wow.
And Carbon practiced there for probably like a year before we ever played a show. Because, you know, like our guitarist had never really picked up a guitar. The drummer hadn't drummed in a long time. And our bassist, also, Jared, he he had started to come back to bass. You know, like he hadn't played in a long time, and so we were all kind of getting together, getting in. So it took us a while, you know, to kind of like gel and figure out what we were doing.
Yeah.
And then finally, when we were kind of ready, and I think we had first played that show at Lofa's after COVID, and then we were like talking to Jessie, the bar owner, and she's great. Like, we've known her the whole time, and we always sit back, have a beer with her, and we were asking her like, oh yeah, you ever do live music here? And us, and also the guys from Flip House, and Rachel was also kind of pushing on it too from Flip House, also known as Gargoyle Girlfriend, also in Snuff Disco.
Yes.
We were all kind of like, oh man, it'd be great if we could do a show here. That'd be so cool. It's like, it looks like a punk rock bar. It looks like a punk rock dive bar, you know, just all the graffiti and everything. And she was always a little hesitant, you know, but then one day we finally like convinced her, okay, let's do a show. You know, so we did a show. I mean, the sound was terrible, but it brought a bunch of people in, you know, and it was fun. Everybody, you know, it was this like so much energy, and like Jessie loved it, you know, right away after that first show. She didn't. I don't even think she cared like the sound, because she was at the bar. She was a dancer. She didn't know what it sounded like. She just knew that the people that were coming in were really cool, and it was a lot of fun. And they were buying a lot of drinks, and everyone was having a blast, you know. And so she was. I think she was really into it right away as soon as that first show. And so we started just doing a once a month show, first Fridays. Right. And so we did that once a month for maybe 5 or 6 months or something. And then Rachel started doing chaos shows, which are art and music. Right. And so she started doing these chaos shows at the end of the month, every month. And then also me and Jared started doing a production company, Running Late. And we started doing just pretty much every other Wednesday or so, something like that. Very informal, but very irregular, I should say. And then once Carbon kind of couldn't practice for a while, couldn't play shows for a while, we just started booking the shows on the first Friday and just kept doing that. You know, and then probably, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, I feel like, it's where it's just like almost every weekend I feel like there's a show. Like, I know this month, every week. You know, we've got shows. Tomorrow we've got oh my god, tomorrow is going to be awesome. You should definitely be there. Or you've got a show tomorrow.
Khmer Call. Right,
Khmer Call, Round Eye, and Mega Dragon coming in from Nanjing. But yeah, we started doing just about every week, I feel like. Especially during the summer. I think because it's been strange this summer. I was talking to my buddy Manoof that I was chatting with earlier, and we were talking about like, this is a really weird summer, because usually during the summer everybody leaves. Yeah. You know, like, it's like everybody in Shanghai, all the foreigners, like, they either go back home for the summer or they go travel, like, they're gone. Right. And so they're just gone, you know. But this summer, I mean, it's just as busy as it is during the school year. Yeah. You know? And so it's really weird, but it's meant that there's so much more going on. You know? It's because also not even as just C's every weekend, but everywhere every weekend. You know, that's, you know, it's YYT Park, you know, Lofa's. I feel like every weekend there's some 1 or 2 awesome shows every weekend going on in each place.
All the open mics,
right?
All the comedies have opened up, like the
Live
House.
I haven't been to the comedy ones yet, but I heard they're opening back up.
Yeah,
so that's awesome. Like, yeah, and that's one thing also that I don't take for granted, you know, because I know that it is there's not a lot of places, you know, back home, especially like, you know, in the US, where it's you can feel comfortable and safe about, you know, like, oh, okay, like, we can open everything up, you know, pretty much. Everybody's getting there, you know. I'm looking forward to the day where everybody can finally take a proper breath and just say, yeah, we're going to this show and that show, and it's cool, like, don't worry about it. And like, you know, and it might be a ways off from the sounds of things, and who knows what's going to happen here even. Nobody knows, but we've done well so far, and I just hope everybody does well, you know.
It's getting there slowly, and I just think the one thing is that it's going to make people want to go to more shows, and if an international band comes, I'll go and see him next time. No, you go and see him now.
Right, exactly. Like, right, really, this, the idea of like, oh, you never know, which fork, if there's a fork in the road, take the one that's like, yes, I will. Don't take that no fork. Like, and with take those chances.
Traveling, if you get holidays, it's like, see you later.
Right, do everything you want to do.
Close your eyes and just...
Right. Yup. Yeah, for me, and be quite honest with in China, I talk a much bigger game than I do walk. Like, I have not been many places in China. Like, I guess I do kind of feel like I get sucked into the Shanghai world, and I'm like, oh, I'm always too busy, like, because even on the weekends, I'm like, well, I'm like working on a weekend or I'm playing a show on the weekend, so it's always just like, but I'm not really even complaining because it's like, well, I'm loving it.
Your life.
Right? It's like it's fine. Like, I don't have any complaints, but I do think I will regret when I leave China and have not seen a lot of the places that I wanted to see should have seen at least.
Did you go to
more.
Xi'an or Xi'an?
I haven't seen anything.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. Exactly. It's like I've been to like maybe like four cities or something. Right, I've been to like Beijing and Suzhou and Hangzhou, all like right next to Shanghai, most of it, Nanjing, I think, one time, and like
get on the speed train.
Right, exactly. Like, I just took the speed train tour, like that's it. No, like I will see a few things before I go again. Like, but really, I think for me, like the going to Xi'an was like that's one that I know like my brother has always talked about and wanting to see, and so part of me was like, I'll wait until he is like ready and has an opportunity to go, and he can go, and maybe he can bring his kids and like my my nephews, and like that'd be great, be able to go have that trip, and I can like I don't know Xi'an, but I know China a little bit, and I can speak alright Chinese, so I could get us around a little easier. I have all the apps and stuff that are necessary to travel around. So, like, I could make life a whole lot easier for him. That'd be great, have an opportunity to do that, So, like, something to look forward to. It's something to kind of push him, too. Cause, that'd be good.
So, you said you come from Spain to China. For me, China was never on my top list, top 10, top 20.
Right.
All of a sudden, I've been here for 5 years. So, for you, like, what was your decision to come to China?
It was about the same. Like, it was never on my list anywhere. I mean, the only thing that I ever thought about it was like everything I've ever heard about it sounds like stuff off TV. By people that don't know what the hell they're talking about and clearly have an axe to grind. On every side. And so I'm just like, okay, like, how am I gonna know anything about this? And so I was like, well, the only way, I'm a bit of a skeptic, with a lot of things, and
if you want
just
to
trusting, trusting like, oh, this country is like this. That's a huge statement, even if you like are from that country and live in that country and you know everything about that country that you could possibly learn in a lifetime. Still, you don't really know what it's like as a country. In every country, it's like that. Like, that is too big for anyone to know. And so for people that have never been there and not know anything about it, and then have this axe to grind, and then like that's my only like point that I can look at and say, oh, this is what I know about China. And it's like, well, okay, then I actually don't know anything and I should just shut up. And so, like, that was my stance, it was like, well, I don't have any opinion on it. Like, there's some numbers on things that I could look at, but, like, I don't know anything about it, So I was like, well, I could come here, and so that was, and, like, at the time I was married, and, and I was like, whatever, where's a place? And she's like, China? And I was like, all right. Cool. I was like, that sounds good to me, as good as anything else. Because I wanted somewhere I'd never been, just somewhere new, and like, obviously, there's a lot of places that I have not seen, a lot of places I have not seen in the world, but I had never been to Asia at all, and so I was like, oh, okay, I was like, that's a massive continent with a lot of unique cultures, and it's comes from a different tradition, you know, like in a lot of ways. And so I studied, you know, I had a Chinese professor who taught Taoism, Confucianism, and Buddhism, and so I studied that for a couple years, you know, with him. But you know, it was kind of, that was it. You know, that was all I knew, and I knew like I'd studied like the history of East Asia, the history of modern Japan. I had, you know, I'd studied kind of the survey stuff. You know, look at a few things, but I had no idea what it meant to live like outside of, you know, something that came from like the more Greco-Roman tradition. You know, because like studying history, that was, you know, there's like world history. And there's Western civilization. Like, those are the two main classes, the kind of categories that you would take, you know, which is like, those are both so broad, almost be meaningless, you know, but, you know, but they do mean something. There is a tradition, the Western tradition, you can follow a lot of the, you know, it's all unique, everything's unique, but it kind of comes from this, you know, a lot of it from this like Greco-Roman, these ideas and things move out this way and that way, and there's a lot of interesting things. But that's not how it developed in the East. You know, it developed from an entirely different set of traditions. And so it's like, oh, okay, like, as someone who took history and philosophy, and still takes history and philosophy quite seriously, like, that's something I really would like to learn about. And so why not go firsthand and try to experience some of it, you know? Did I learn anything? I don't know. Like, like it's like everything else, whereas when you have all these grand ideas, and then you're like, oh yes, I will survey the land, and I will figure out what everything is about, and then you're like, I gotta work, I gotta pay the bills, I gotta go do that. You know, you just get in the daily grind, and then you're like, oh, I'm making music, I'm in a band doing this and that. Yeah. It's like, is my band anything based on the Eastern traditions of anything? No. It's like, you know, maybe it's influenced because I've heard this different kind of music, you know, that I've listened to, a lot of Chinese bands and that kind of stuff. So maybe I've heard some of this, like, but in reality, it's like, well, I'm still very much entrenched in my tradition, you know? And so, like, we all have our individual traditions, and most of us stick more or less within them, and we expand when we can, and we try, you know, to different extents, each of us.
So, what was your first job that you sort of did?
I mean, it was pretty common. I worked
the standard.
I worked at a training school that was one of the biggest training schools in Shanghai. There were 15, 20 of them, still are. You know, they changed names a couple times, but it's just this big training school, and
it's such an easy way to, if you see a girl out at a bar and it's a foreign girl, it's like, so what do you do? What do you do for work? I'm an English teacher. It's all right.
Let me get my crystal ball out. You teach English.
Columbus.
Literally, everyone walking down the street, if they're a foreigner, you're going, what do you do? Yeah. Oh, no, never mind.
Let me guess.
We can skip this conversation because we all know the answer. I lived outside of the downtown area. I lived in Putual. And so I only knew of one other foreigner in my area, like in my neighborhood when I first got there. There was nothing in English, and I showed up. I didn't know anything about Shanghai. I didn't even know where downtown is, because when you look at it on a map, you know, you're like, oh, okay, this is huge and has a lot of people. This is huge and has a lot of people. This is huge, you know, like, because it's the size of, it's like 5 New York cities or something, you know, and so it's like, oh, okay, imagine that, you know, like, and I'm not great at planning when it comes to traveling on purpose. I like the adventure of, like, failing and getting lost and not knowing what I'm doing, and I get a lot of cool experiences, and you meet a lot of fun people that way, you know, and so I kind of showed up. And I didn't know what I was doing. I was, you know, I just kind of, because I remember, like, I knew I had to learn Chinese once I got there. I didn't start until I got there, and I was like, whoa. I was like, I don't understand any of this. I was like, I somehow thought I would kind of be able to grasp what was going on, and I was like, nope, not a word, not a bit. Nobody understands what I'm doing or saying, you know. And so I got out of my apartment. And I would walk out, and I had my Pleco app, and I would just look at every character and I would find it on my Pleco app and I would save it. And so I just did that walking down the street of my entire neighborhood and learning every character that I could all the way down. And then I kept trying to learn the tones first, and then I started trying to learn the pronunciation of different, the different pinyin. And I was just like, okay. It's like, whoa.
It's tough.
I was like, yeah, it's something else. Like, and I think it's, like my Chinese sucks, like all of us, all foreigners here. Like our Chinese all sucks. Like no matter how good you are, unless you're like Adrian Jenkins from Flip House, then you're. Unless you're him, and you can just like pick up languages in like a week or something.
Yeah, right.
But I worked really hard, put in a lot of hours. Like working at training school also was nice because you're only working 20 hours, and that's your full-time gig is 20-hour a week, classes. And so it's like, oh, okay, I had a lot of time to be able to study, Chinese. And so I really tried hard, especially for those first few years, to like get at a level where I could at least get around, because I was living out, way out, for when you're considering where I live now, which is in the center of Jing'an.
Right.
Because like Jing'an now, actually, I think though, had I moved to Jing'an originally, I wouldn't have even bothered learning Chinese. I would have just been like, oh, I could fake it most of the way. Like everything is, I can use Didi in English now, and I can.
Everything's in English.
Right, exactly. So it's really easy. But where I was then, I appreciate the fact that I made it more difficult for myself, because it's a very interesting language. I enjoy it. Like I still study it at least a few days a week. I'll sit down and study, like actual study. Every day. I use Chinese every day. I have to. Like it's just part of everything that I do is ingrained into it. And so it's like, all right, I remember the first time I was actually able to say something that someone understood. Like, that was a very big moment. Because, I don't know how many times I tried to say train station. Like, in Chinese, and I would do it. And I would do it as slow and fast and nothing for, like, months and months and months. And then finally somebody understood it. And I was like, oh, my God, okay, it's real. Yeah. Because for a while there I was like, is there a big joke where like every app and every YouTube video and everything has this fake language that isn't real, that when you say it, everyone that actually speaks Chinese is laughing at you and like, he thinks that one's real. That's the fake one. Because like for literally months of just repeating the same words and no one ever understanding a single word of it. And like it was wild, and then finally it was so exciting. I started studying. I was studying like 8 hours a day for a while, like for probably a good couple years. Like that was like a full-time job pretty much for me. I should be better than I am. Like, what the hell happened?
It's crazy. Like, but when you start breaking it down, it's like, that makes sense. Like, the numbers are simple, like when you translate it back into English, it's like, and the dates and the months, it's like
it's very
January's
logical.
1,
right? It's super right. It's super logical. Like it's like, oh yeah, okay, I like this.
Kangaroo is like pouch rat pouch,
right? And I think that was one of the things that really like kept me going is like. I was finding these words that were it was so cool to think about. If you combine a pouch and a rat, you're like,
that was
oh man, you're like, I get it, like that. It's like, it's just these, it's funny, but it's serious and it's very practical in a way, because you're like, of course, that's what that is. Like, it's amazing. What a cool language. Like, like it is.
Right.
There's such a steep learning curve, because like my level's about HSK 3, which is like lower intermediate-ish. Like I can get around and do the stuff I need to do and whatever. But man, like it's like that. Every time I learn like a new thing, and of course I jump out, to way up here, high level Chengyu and stuff, and I'm like, what? I was like, that means, oh no way, that's so cool, like. So yeah, it is. There's just a lot of really cool stuff in the language itself. I always thought languages were kind of cool though, like
you said you were working in a training centre.
Yeah.
And like I don't think we have that in Australia. We have like after hours class. That's not really a training centre. So it was same with me. I started a training centre, but I do believe you went on to other schools, right? like an international school, right?
Right. Yeah. I moved on to another school. I guess it might be worth just mentioning first, though, what a training center is.
Yeah.
I think there's probably, obviously anyone that's here in China probably knows, but like a training center is this, a lot of times mine was in a mall. A lot of them are just in a mall. And it's like a section of a mall where they'll have like 7 to 10 classrooms. And after from like 4:30 to 8 or 9, and then all day Saturday and Sunday, you come in, you have like a 90-minute class, the kids switch out, the teachers are just sitting there, next group comes in, you teach them for 90 minutes, next group comes in, and you just power through, and that's all you're doing is just kind of, it's like factory education, and so really, like, it's a strange thing, and I honestly don't think I taught anyone anything. Like, I tried my damnedest. I really did. I really took it seriously, and I really tried. Like, me and my friend Jesse worked really hard to, we created all these new games, and we created all these new resources for everyone, and in the end, though, it was like I just never felt like we really accomplished much of anything. I think the biggest accomplishment really is that a lot of the students that I had never really interacted with a foreigner. And I think that's cool. I think that's an awesome thing for anyone to interact with someone that's from a different country. It's I think a lot you probably have some of the same experience. It's why you like to travel. It's like you like to go somewhere where it's like people have a very different mindset from you, and it kind of forces you to think in things a different way. It's like, oh, okay, like, yeah, I expected this reaction because in my circle, in my country, this is probably how people would react. But actually, from this circle, people react totally differently.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's cool.
Very cool. Yeah.
And it's something you can't fake. It's great to be able to actually have that experience, especially as a young child, because most of the students that I had were probably between 3 and 10, I would say, somewhere in there. And so these young kids, they'd never seen a foreigner, they come in and they show up and they're just like, all right, I know a couple words of English now, but a lot of it is body language, a lot of it is just, trying to get them to have fun, in an English environment. That's always the buzzword, is English environment. That's what I offer,
The parents see the kids are happy. 90% you won.
Right, exactly. and really, if, at 3 or 4 years old, also, from my personal, view on education is that there's a limit that's very low what's appropriate.
Yeah.
Educationally appropriate things for 3-year-olds are pretty low level. Your expectation should be minimal, and then you should just really try to inspire them to enjoy the idea of learning and enjoy the idea of experiencing new things. Absolutely. And I think if you can accomplish that, the language at 3, 4, 5 years old is kind of like whatever. Once they hit 7, they're going to have this massive growth spurt in their brain, and they're going to pick it all up like it's nothing. So don't worry about that other stuff.
Hi, I'm Nigel the Shanghai Psychic. I can tune into your loved ones in the spirit world, but I can also tune into you, tell you about your path and the choices that you need to make and need to know. I'm currently giving 30% discount on all Tell Craig Your Story listeners. Just use the code Tell Craig Your Story for 30% off your first psychic reading with me online at Nigel the Shanghai Psychic.